what inspired you to open a tech company? Tell us more about the beginning.
The very beginnings. Man, I'm really old now, so it gets all to the beginnings. So it's very interesting. I'm a mechanical engineer by training, so and very entrepreneurial by genes, I guess. Back in high school and in college, really needed to get some money, and I was actually helping my colleagues to do their projects and everything, and helping them to do their projects. I got money for whatever I needed at the time. It was back in Georgescu times. Now, in my last year of college, mechanical engineer, I realized that there is such thing as a computer, and it was back in 91, 92, so that year. So beginning of 91, I guess, I realized that computers exist in the world, and they can actually help me doing the projects for my colleagues. And I realized the difference between linear growth of a business and exponential growth of a business, and it was not as well explained in my brains at that time. I was a kid, obviously, and but I kind of felt it that what I was doing is get the team and then start doing the math and drawing, and there was 2 hours of work, I got $10. 2 hours of work, $10. It was selling minutes basically. But I realized that with the computer you work for free for 10 hours to create the software, and then it was you enter data, print, enter data, print, enter data, print. So changing completely the linear revenue growth, selling minutes, into a J-curve where you invest time and effort, and then there's the exponential growth that makes all the difference. And that was completely mind blown at that time. And that was, again, 91, 92, completely mind blown. And I got in love with computers because of this. And speaking this today, and we're in 23 now, so it's like 30 years later. It sounds it's obvious, but at that time in my kid mind, it was really mind blowing. So I said, look, computers are my life, and I'm gonna really use computers to change business models from linear to exponential, and actually arbitrage and win out of this arbitrage between the linear and exponential growth. And in my mind, it was like, okay, cool. So that makes a lot of sense. I started to program in AutoCAD in my final year as a mechanical engineer, and created a spare parts type of a library for AutoCAD. And then immediately after the university, the college, I sold that product to the Autodesk distributor in Romania. That was really a huge step for me. First, that I understood that creating a library actually grows the exponentiality of the business so much more. And second, I got somehow to the business part of it, which is you create a company, you have a piece of software, and then you sell the company that it's almost nothing. My mother and dad almost got scared that I've got money from nothing. And creating a company, again, it's back in 92, so very, very early days. It felt at that time like Biznitsa as opposed to business, right? It felt that it's abnormal to do business. But it was amazing, and I learned a lot. I learned how to negotiate a contract. There are no lawyers, so I didn't have access to lawyers or anything. But I learned how to negotiate a contract, what I need to sell, actually how to sell the IP, the intellectual property of a certain product and not of the full range of products. Very, very mind-opening and amazing for me personally. And that's how it started. And I said to myself at that time, look, that's what I want to do. I mean, look, I worked for a year creating that thing, and I sold the company, the product, to somebody that wanted to acquire it for a lot more than whatever salary I would have gotten for that 12 months. So amazing starts for me. It was a moment when I understood, it was love at first sight with computers. I understood what I want to do all my life, and I'm still in love with computers and with this philosophy of arbitraging intellectual property and making sense out of things that you can invest a lot and create value, and then you don't really work anymore. So this invest and risk and create and then benefit, it's amazing.
Do you still remember who introduced you to? Did you have a computer at college, or did you have one at home?
There was this Professor Stancescu, who was one of my first mentors and amazing people to look up to, who was running the computers lab in TCM, the Mechanical Engineering College. And there were, at that time, there were computers like, really, really old computers. So don't imagine whatever laptops there are today. But he introduced me to that, and he's the one actually ended up helping me with my dissertation and actually acquiring the product at the end of the day. So huge respect for him and a lot of thanks. He mentored a lot of my colleagues that went in business all over the place, and he mentored me to become what I become today.
What about your entrepreneurial spirit? You said that your parents were kind of scared.
Kind of creeped out.
Where do you think that you got this entrepreneurial spirit?
I have no clue. I mean, I come from a very middle class Ceausescu time family. Both my parents mechanical engineers, and it's not that I needed money to live, but like any kid, some extra money was welcomed. I don't know. I've always felt that I can do better things with my time and grow and help others and make some money in the process. And I always thought that, money is not the most important thing in the world, but they certainly help. I don't know where it came from.
What kind of opportunities did you see at that time when you first started to do a business? I mean, a literal business. Did you look around and see, I don't know, who's doing it, or?
Yeah. So once, so this one-off kind of create during university the library and then selling it. That was a one-off, obviously, and that was the luck part. And we can speak a lot about the luck involved and required for a successful business. And is it luck required? Yes. Is it enough? No. And all this philosophy around luck. So I've been lucky to start with the right foot. But then I looked around and I said, okay, I've been successful with my first thing, let's be successful with a second, and looked around and seen all the opportunities of a very starting and warming up country and economy. There was a time when just selling computers and wiring networks was amazingly good business and did that for a few years. Then got back to software, which was my first love, and started creating software products. So the first years, to the tune of 94, were companies like Flamingo Computers, Sprint in Ploiești. I'm having a memory break now, but there are quite a few. I think K-Tech was a company. Ager was another company. Scope Computers, then OmniLogic, and it started to get built. You know, the pyramid of importer, distributor, integrators, mini integrators at that time. So we were, and the company was called Gecad from the beginning, GE from my name and CAD from computer-aided design, which was AutoCAD where we started from. And we started, you know, acquiring motherboards and hard drives and, you know, whatever cases, putting them together, warm up the computer, start up the computer, and sell computers, wire offices and houses whenever it takes. So amazing times, a huge learning experience. Then after Professor Stăncescu, who helped me, introducing me to the concepts, I got a very good friend who helped me in the sense that he was selling computers, and he got me and Claudio, it was two of us in the company, gave us one room in his office, and we were helping him putting together computers, and he helped us with the hardware part and training and understanding. Really entrepreneurial, I mean, really tough time entrepreneurial days. Amazingly interesting. Within 95-ish, I would say, we wanted to start distributing software. It was only hardware that was distributed at that time. And we wrote to McAfee to distribute McAfee at that time. And we wrote it like a piece of paper, writing to McAfee at their address that was in the software. Got no response, so then we met Costin Raiu, who helped us develop an antivirus of ourselves. Super opportunistic, yeah, amazing times. And thank you for bringing me back the memory line. I mean, it's amazing. I could speak forever about this. Very interesting.
Please do. We have all the time.
Yeah, amazing days.
Before really starting your own businesses, did you ever consider leaving Romania at some point? Was it something that people did back then? I think after the revolution, there was a flood of people that...
There are a handful of waves of people leaving. One was immediately after 1991. You know, people just, okay, the bottle opened and pff, let's go. Then the second wave was somewhere 93, 94. Yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't consider leaving at the beginning, and I didn't agree to leave. So one interesting moment in my life and in my family's life actually was when we sold RAV antivirus to Microsoft. One of the conditions was to move to the US and actually start be there in Microsoft and start their security business. They did not have a security business until acquiring us, and acquiring RAV antivirus was actually the core that was supposed to start their security business. And they said, look, we're not going to acquire if you don't come and start the business. And that was that was a big question to answer. And the answer was, no, I don't want to move.
Why not?
So
what made you stay here?
It's a very complex answer and very personal as well. It's a combination of parents. It's a combination of friends. A combination of spouse and kids. A combination of living in a bubble as well, the opportunity of living in a bubble. A little bit of laziness as well. So it's a combination of a lot. When I speak about parents, the vast majority of people that I know that left, their parents actually took the hit with the kids living, and the hit was tougher or softer, but it was a significant hit all the time, and I just couldn't take that. Friends, I like going on the streets and meet people that I grew up with, and you go there, and for quite a while you don't have friends, and there's a hit that you take on this, and it's not easy. That brings back the laziness kind of a thing, and I'm a lazy person, in a good way, I think. Getting in love with computers is part of the laziness. That why not get computers do your work, and I'm happy with it as long as it pushes me further and it pushes me to grow. Then my wife is a medical doctor, very successful and very good in what she's doing. And moving to the US was moving from being some top 3 in Europe in her vertical, what she's doing, into starting all over again from school. So I just couldn't do this to her. I mean, like, come on, it's highly unfair. Then where do I want my kids to grow as a culture, as opportunities for life? And I wanted at that time to grow in Romania. Then growing in a bubble, luckily I was in a high-tech bubble where I didn't have, I had the opportunity not to have all the problems that we have in Romania. So being able to kind of have a little bit of a better life, luckily, than people that were forced to go out for a better life. So it's a long combination. It's a big combination of a lot of things, and we decided as a family to stay and grow in Romania with Romania and do our best to change this to become a better country for us and for our kids as well.
So no regrets about not leaving?
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Actually, I'm very happy today, and I'm one of the lucky guys. I could live anywhere even today, right? No regrets.
Any regrets about something else?
No.
From the past?
No, that's part
from
of
the business side.
No. In general, all the decisions that I've took over time, I've took thinking hard about them and considering, and there are no emotional decisions. I think that you can regret emotional decisions, but it's very hard to regret, facts-based decisions. Every decision that I took in my life, I would take the same decision today with whatever I knew at that time. No, not at all. Not at all. So, happy guy.
You mentioned selling RAV to Microsoft. We'll get back to that.
Yeah.
But I would like to ask you about the first moments or the initial moments when you first started to attract clients from abroad Romania. Mm-hmm. I think it was easier from Romania. You were a Romanian. People knew you or started to know you at some point.
People didn't know me. I was a kid at the beginning, as I was saying, and the other guys that you did or will speak with, Vasile Baltag and Vladimir Adinoiu and Gabi Marin from OmniLogic and other people, and Marius Ghena from Flamingo. So other people that were better known and did a better job of growing quickly a bigger company at that time were much better positioned in Romania. And outside Romania, obviously, we were completely unknown. Selling, so the first kind of hit was RAV antivirus, right? So Costin was a huge part of getting this done. So I was very lucky to have a lot of friends and people around me to help me grow and to help the business grow and to help themselves grow in the process. So I was in a very good and solid community, and that's amazing. Costin was one of them. He actually was the genius that started the antivirus and got it to where it meant something before going to Kaspersky. We started selling on a disk, from door to door in Romania, and then the precursor of internet, which was the BBS, was here, which was a peer-to-peer type of a bulletin board system, as the name suggests. And then on the internet, so back in '96, if you can imagine, we were selling the antivirus over a very young internet. The way to, that's as funny anecdotes. The way to get money from people's credit cards was they were actually sending an email with the credit card details, right? So emails that were coming to me, they were saying, my name is such and such, my credit card number is this, expiration date is this and this. That was going to the only bank in Romania that accepted this, which was Exim Bank at that time. Amazing project with them. And I was giving them, the data, and they're cashing the cards. That was an amazing project. That's what actually brought me in the fintech and payments thing, that brought me to ePayment and Avangate and so on later in the day. And that was it, except that the fiscal authorities were like, okay, you've got this money, but what did you send, right? Because you didn't have what was called at that time DVE, Declarație Vamală de Export. And I said, yeah, but I'm sending over the internet. And I said, no, you have to have the DVE. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm sending it over the internet. So I went, from person to person to person to person, and somebody really open-minded at that time gave me the solution. So I said, look, why don't you just send an empty envelope to that guy's, and therefore you have the DVE. So very amazingly interesting days. To come back to your question, what's the feeling of getting the first customer outside Romania? It's the same feeling of getting the first customer. So a lot of times I'm asking myself, why the hell do I wake up every morning? Why do I get off the bed every morning? Why do I go to work every morning? And I get this question normally in a mirror with Florin Talpeș, who's actually growing his own business, more and more and more and more. And he's done an amazing job with Bitdefender and with helping Romania and all the stuff. So absolutely amazing life and history. Whereas my life is creating companies and selling them, right? And creating products and selling them. I started about 37 companies all together. 6 of them hugely successful. 10 of them didn't really lose all the money. And all the rest, amazing experiences, right? So why this difference? And it's not one better than the other. It's, what do you like? And my answer to this is that I'm getting excited by the start. I'm waking up in the morning for the start, because imagine that you are in a night with a friend in a balcony, right? A box of beer and just drinking beer, 2:00 in the night, and speaking about a lot of things, football, basketball, whatever floats your boat, and then you have an idea, right? And I say, okay, that may be interesting, and you start changing the world and conquering everything at 2:00 in the night from the balcony in your mind. And then tomorrow morning you said, what did we discuss? It seemed that we were conquerors last night. So you start, drawing and making some sort of mini plans. And sometimes they're just bullshit and you just put them aside. But from time to time, there is something that it can be interesting. So, and you start, and then 1 week later, you have some sort of a business plan. So from nothing and a couple of beers, right? 1 week later, you have a business plan. And if this kind of makes sense, you start programming, and 1 or 2 or 3 months later, you actually have an MVP. You have some sort of a product. So imagine that, from nothing, a couple of beers and an idea, you get to a business plan, you get to a product that it's kind of working. And then you put it on the internet, because that's the amazing part of the days that we are living in. Put it on the internet, and you are waiting, somebody's going to see it and press, download or, create user or whatever in different eras the usage button is. And it makes you, it gives you goosebumps to see somebody actually using your product. So imagine that, from nothing, from a couple of beers and an idea, to a business plan, to a product, and to somebody using your product, it's really amazing. And then people use your product and give you feedback and work, and there's the amazing day when you decide to put the wonder button, pay now type of a thing, right? And you publish the pay now button, and you look in the back office and, okay, anybody's gonna pay, anybody's gonna, and you, cha-ching, at some time, somebody is giving you $2 or $9.99 or whatever the number is, a very small something. And that first paying customer is something amazing, because again, that coming from nothing, a couple of beers, an idea, a business plan, a product that is being used and is being paid by somebody, there's nothing better than the understanding that your product that you created with your own hands and a couple of friends is good enough that somebody wants to pay to use it. It's an amazing compliment that, people, it's the most amazing compliment that people give you to pay the product that you created at the end of the day, right? And then there's, the obvious last step when the company becomes a bit positive, like break even, so you're not investing anymore. And then for me, there is nothing really more interesting, right? And I wouldn't really know how to grow the company further because that's what I love, that's what I know, that's what I understand. And it's like, get the company in the hands of a better person, in the hands of somebody that can help the company better than me, right? So I've had questions from friends. Yeah, but it's like killing your company. No, it's not like killing your company. It's like marrying your daughter. So look, we come to a point where I cannot help, with whatever she needs. She has to fly and go further in a better place. So that's I don't know what questions did I answered, but that's where I thrive, and that's what I love.
Do you still feel this real?
Yeah.
Do you still see yourself, I don't know,
Same.
30 years from now still doing this?
Absolutely.
Building companies?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I hate being in a suit. I wear jeans and t-shirts. I wake up early in the morning, and I love getting to work on this process where at every moment you really truly believe you can change the world and make the difference. And from time to time, a lot of times you fail. And that's great. I learn a lot from this, and we learn a lot from this. But sometimes you are successful. And that's when, everything shines around. And this success from time to time is something that moment is what I'm working for, right? So Microsoft decided that out of all security companies in the world, and there were a few, right? RAV Antivirus was the best suited for them to start a security business. What better compliment can you get better than that, right? And then, I don't know, ePayment, was acquired by Naspers and transformed into PayU. And again, that made a lot of sense. Avangate was acquired by Francisco Partners in San Francisco, and then sold it further for profit, to Verifone, and so on and so forth. It's really, really amazing and rewarding, and yeah.
Did you ever imagine at some point selling your business? Let's start with Microsoft. But it's the same for all the others, major exits. Did you ever think about this possibility? Microsoft is going to buy my company.
Yeah.
Especially after you said there were also some failures, some businesses some products that didn't really work.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
do you still remember how was the negotiation and how was the process?
Oh yeah. So it was. I'm going to start with the end of it. So it was very interesting when you announced it, that people didn't understand that such thing can happen around here, right? That you can actually, because the normal business mindset was, you run businesses for dividends. You take dividends, and which is fair. That's part of it, right? And what we brought in with my colleagues, and I'm gonna drop a lot of names, people that helped me and colleagues, and in RAV, with Madi Marinescu, who's still in Microsoft, and Oana Bornaz, who was running the business, and Madalina Grinzeanu and Carmen Sebe, who were running, the commercial side. The change of mindset that you can actually create something international enough and good enough to actually change the business thinking of a huge company like Microsoft. Make them create a new business by starting with you. making a lot of money in the process, which is always helpful, was something that I know for a fact that changed a lot of mindsets in the business in Romania. So a lot of young people, so I was in my early 30s at that time, and I was speaking to kids in college and in high schools and everything. And they were, oh, okay, that's what I want to do. So it was a very important step at that time. And it was a very important step for me. And I think that it was important for us as an environment. Going back, we wanted to create a great company. So Costin and Madi were creating an amazing technology. And an amazing technology, it's great. And in that time, he or she who owned the technology was God. In today's time, technology is not as important. It's, the business execution is more important. But by that time, technology was important. So they created the technology, and then we put together the company around it, creating all the back office and all the sales part and getting global. And we got to a point where we were selling through distributors around the world. And we had very interesting customers, like, for example, the full Ministry of Education in Japan was using Radu antivirus, just as one example that I remember off my top of my head. So we were trying to create a great company. And while this company was growing, we started to think of what was the next step. And in my mind, because I started by selling, my first company very early days, and I realized how this selling your company works. In my mind, it was always, okay, let's figure out who potentially could want the company. So on one hand, we're trying to make a great company because, a great company is good, right? On the other hand, I was always trying to figure out who can potentially acquire a company. And there were three potential suitors. One was Microsoft, who was a huge company without a security business. So we were like, man, if I were them, I would want. Another one was IBM. IBM was our biggest distributor at that time. So IBM was actually distributing the product globally. And we thought that, look, if you distribute our product, at some point in time, you may want to actually get it internal, acquire. The third one was Symantec. It was the Symantec antivirus, was the biggest competition. And we thought they may want to acquire. And for this one specifically, we created an antivirus for Linux. Everybody had, we were the only antivirus for Linux at a point in time. Everybody else was having antiviruses for Linux. So we thought that, the big bear, like, the big boy in the market, Symantec, may want to complement their Windows business with a Linux product. So we were discussing it with all three of them, ended up making some sort of an auction between IBM and Microsoft, which is an amazing experience in itself. Had very good lawyers, used at that time Linklaters. And there was a team that worked with us that is today probably the best lawyers in the city. So obviously Ted Cominos, he's now in the US, but he was heading the team. But then Marian Dinu of DLA was in the team, Alex and others that I may forget right now, and I apologize. But eventually we had 1 week in London where in a Linklaters facility where we were having a room, they were having a room, and we were meeting in the middle. And we were like, okay, we need to figure things out. If we leave this, it's either because we signed or we didn't. And the biggest question mark was because we had a lot of Linux users. Microsoft needed to take over, the maintenance for the Linux thing, and Microsoft is now doing a lot of Linux in Azure. But at that time, Linux was like, big no-no. So that was the big controversy. So it took a while. It was a very interesting negotiation. Learned really a lot. Realized that my place in a company is not in the executive part. I'm not a good executive person. I'm really not a good CEO, not a good product person. I'm actually, what I love and what I'm good at is the strategy of the company and the structuring of the company, which has to do with everything equity, right? All things equity, which is organizing the cap table, getting investment in the company, making sure that you get the right partners with the company. Because at the end of the day, and I'm kind of switching topics right now, I can speak a lot, so you have to stop me when I'm getting bazookas. So, and I'm speaking about technology companies, right? Technology companies have to have three things, and they're all really, really important. One is to have some technology, right? And technology you can buy, but you have to at least have access to, right? You have to have business execution, right? To be able to execute spotlessly. At the end of the day, the successful companies are not the ones that have new ideas, but the ones that execute existing ideas perfectly. And to have very good execution on the corporate level, which is on the investors, on the shareholders, on the strategy, on the exits and M&A and so on. So that is my part, and that's what I love doing it, and that's what you normally don't really learn at school, and you have to get somebody to help you with.
You mentioned investments and also what a tech company needs, and I'm going to switch a bit to the investment part of your career. When did you understand first that the traditional way of developing companies can be changed with seed money, with investments? When did you first get acquainted to this concept of investing and being an investor?
I was always a very lucky guy, and being able to spend a lot of time in the US, because selling the antivirus to Microsoft meant that I took over a consultancy program. So I went to Microsoft every other month to help them build that business, and going to Silicon Valley, and this was back in 2000, right? In Silicon Valley, the first dot-com bubble burst in 2000, end of 2000, beginning 2001. So there was a lot of experience there with VCs and with VC money and everything. So I had the opportunity to learn from the best in this in this perspective of the world, and understand concepts and how this work, and be able to deploy them in Romania in a time where it was really early days. So again, very lucky to be able to be part of this arbitrage between West Coast in the US and Romania. That's actually one more very good reason for staying in Romania, right?
Was it at that time or previously when you first got acquainted also with the concept of startups? I mean, you were doing startups, but I don't know if in Romania, in the 90s, this concept of startups was known. You're doing a business.
I
For
think,
others that didn't understand, like
yeah, like my
the
parents.
people from,
Yeah.
not only your parents, but from the guys from the authorities, you needed to go to the customs.
Yeah.
So I think the concept of startups was something really, really.
It was so. Romania is a very interesting case study. So, interestingly, the worst thing that Ceausescu did for the country was getting rid of the elites, right? So basically, the guy unplugged the country for 2 generations, and the country was unplugged completely from the power line. And that means, and the country, late 80s, the country had zero private enterprise. Unlike Poland, unlike Hungary, unlike Serbia, Yugoslavia at that time, right? Other countries, Czech, other countries in the same region still had a little bit of private enterprise. In Romania, everything at that time, like everything, including the cobbler and the bread maker and everything, was one big state-owned company. So you wanted to buy a bicycle, you had to buy a Pegasus, right? You want to buy a car, you had to buy a Dacia. You want to buy bread, you go to Alimentara, and that's it, right? In this context, there is no market, and it's just a supply game. If you can supply, somebody's going to buy it because there's no other opportunity. So anything like marketing, sales, management were completely unheard of. So back in 2000, the most experienced manager in Romania had 9 years of experience, right? The most experienced. So the country had to get rebooted, and it's very much like a Titanic, right? I mean, you cannot take left or right and tell everybody, 20 million people, oh, so from tomorrow, that, until yesterday things were like this, and from tomorrow things are like in the US. You cannot do this. And a lot of people are complaining that Romania is not good and this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. Comparing to where we've been in 90, where we've been, and I'm not saying, infrastructure and streets and everything, where we've been as a country, as a culture, after being plugged off completely for 2 generations, you basically need 2 more generations to actually build things up. I'm really very proud with what's happening in general in Romania, and seeing it growing from where it used to be in the 90s to where it is today, and still growing. And I agree that it could be better, but it's amazing. And yeah, coming back at that time, understanding what a company is and changing the laws to allow, the company laws and this, coming from a law environment where Ceausescu's main interest was to create a cumbersome law that he can jail anybody. So our laws were at that time by design contradictory. So if you take the left curve, you are not allowed. If you take the right curve, you are not allowed because a different other law. So whatever you do, you are involved. And it took a long while to clean this up. I'm not sure it's cleaned as yet, but it's probably much better. People's understanding that you are guilty by default took a lot of time to change. So yeah, making business in the 90s was very complicated.
You are fortunate to see firsthand and learn about venture capital and investments in Silicon Valley. And you started in Romania, Gecad Ventures, and you're also involved in Venture Connect. How important do you think that Venture Connect was to the Romanian ecosystem at that point, being, I think, one of the first initiatives for tech startups?
You know what? I think that the really first one was Bogdan Iordache's event. How to Web, yeah. I think How to Web was way before Venture Connect. It was less dedicated to venture and investing, but it was a huge and very strong community creator. So I believe that How to Web was the most important. I wouldn't grade them, but it was one very important step into growing the community and understanding what a startup means, a tech startup, and everything. So I met him. He was, I think he's 10 years younger than me. And when he started, I was like, man, when I grow up, I want to get to be partner with him, right? And we started Gecad Ventures together, failed at some point in time, and then he started his own fund. And it's very successful and hugely appreciate what he's doing these days. I started together with Carmen and Andre and Ionut SeedBlink. That's growing amazingly as well. I'm very proud of what we are doing. So, I think How to Web was the first and most important catalyst.
And also, speaking about Gecad Ventures, how's the whole ecosystem, from investment ecosystem, this time at that point? Were there other investors that wanted to support this tech ecosystem?
No, we started to invest back in 2003 after selling the antivirus, and no, there wasn't. And there wasn't. I mean, there was very little to invest in at that time, and people's culture of getting an investment was that somebody's gonna come and tell you what to do. Or somebody is going to gift you money. A lot of ghosts around in everybody's mind. It was a very, very long, again, like the Titanic, a very, very long process of understanding how this works. Then some angels came along. Malin is one of the very, very early days, and he helped a lot building the environment and everything. And then we missed the train of the Jeremy funds. So Bulgaria started 10 years earlier than us with a couple of VC funds for seed VC funds, because we just couldn't, for some odd reason that I don't understand even this day, could not, as a country, get the Jeremy funds to come and get VCs. But then 10 years later, we started having, I think the first one was Gapminder. No, the first one was probably Catalyst, the Catalyst 1. And then later, Gapminder, 1 year later, Early Game Ventures, and then it started to become kind of business as usual.
You're mentioning the first days. I think that you are writing on your blog about seed investments, and that you're not you're not taking over their business or something. You're trying to explain.
Yeah, I had a
what's
long
happening.
time when I was writing on my blog. I was trying to give twice a week small pieces of, how to use lawyers, how to grow a company like this, and how to do, which were normally answering questions that people were asking me. I was trying to answer publicly, and then the more the environment grew, and people, professional people, started to write and everything. I just said, okay, it's not my place to do this anymore. I did a lot of until COVID. I did a lot of going and speaking to kids in high schools, because I've always thought that the best moment to start thinking and to start thinking of what you want to do in life is in high school. One of the problems of Europe is that colleges are you need to decide what college you are going when you are, mid high school. Then you get there, you get into med school, and that's it. You're going to end up 6 years later as a doctor. You cannot change tracks in the middle. US and UK have these liberal arts colleges where you go and you use the first 2 years to kind of really decide what you want to do, and then you get credits and you become a doctor or a mechanical engineer. So I always thought that kids in high schools need to see and understand as many alternatives and opportunities that they may have as a profession, and wanted to give them the perspective of an entrepreneur. And some kids are best at medicine, and some others are best at being journalists, and some others are best of being musicians or cooks, and some others are best being entrepreneurs. And I think that it makes so much sense for kids to try as many things, to play guitar, to draw, to cook, to do some mechanical work, to this, to that, to teach, to be an entrepreneur and to figure out what kind of floats their boat. So I invested a lot of time in this, and stopped at COVID because of obvious reasons. I'd very much love to start it back. Didn't get the right mojo to invest. It's a big investment of time and effort, but really have to start it again.
And it helps a lot of kids, I'm sure.
It helps. It's very rewarding for me. Even now, I'm getting emails with kids that are telling me, at that date when you came in high school and you told us this and this and this, it helped me with this and this and this, and I still remember, and thank you. It's absolutely amazing. It's very rewarding.
You're talking about kids and trying different paths, and looking back at your own path, also as an entrepreneur and as an investor. How would you define being an entrepreneur? What is an entrepreneur now? How would you define it?
An entrepreneur is a problem solver, in my mind, and there are so many definitions. Entrepreneur is a problem solver. Entrepreneur means that you are starting from zero. It's only you, maybe two people, and need to do everything. And you are showered with problems. And you need to take them one at a time and solve them. Solve problem, solve problem, solve problem. And one of the problems is that you have to find some time to step up and see the bigger picture, which is not, problem. One of the problem is actually be able to see the big picture and create the strategy and follow the strategy. So I guess my short answer is a problem solver.
Do you see yourself as a problem solver?
No.
Why not?
I see myself as an entrepreneur. I don't see myself as... Why not? Because problem solving means a lot of execution. I'm very bad at execution. I can be a problem solver on a strategic level, and I get that, and I'm doing this. I think a good entrepreneur has to have a very solid execution part. I've been very fortunate to have partners that are good at this side, and I'm very well positioned to be part of a team of more where there is a solid execution part, and I can come with whatever I can bring in. I've read once a book called Path to a Billion, and some guys from Gartner were looking at so many companies and see what are the 7 things that are common to companies that got to $1 million in whatever short time. And one of them was that all the companies, one of the 7 points, was that all of the companies that got to a billion, not a million, to a billion, were led by by 2 people, right? Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer and others, right? Where one is very executive oriented and very making things happen, and the other one is more strategic and outside kind of driven. So I think I'm part of this type of concept as well, and I believe it makes sense. So, for example, I'm just getting to make a really good team with Carmen Sebe. So we work together in quite a few of the successful companies. Her with a sheer execution, spotless execution of the business, and me with a part of shareholder management and investing and exiting and strategy and so on. So yeah.
Speaking of Carmen, I think she said that SeedBlink in essence is a tech company. Yeah. Do you see it as a tech company?
Yes, absolutely. SeedBlink it's a very interesting, game-changing company, and tech is important because everything happens through tech, and at the end of the day, everything in our lives is tech. I mean, you get a car, it's tech. The camera we're filming now, it's tech. Microphones are tech. I mean, it's all tech, right? But the business model is amazing, and everything that SeedBlink is doing, it's changing the way investments are being done in Europe in technology. So basically, we're taking care of everything above the CEO in a company, right? So there is everything execution, CEO management, execution, and then above is the board and the cap table, the shareholders, the ESOP management, the investments, the primaries, the secondaries, and everything. And there are very few tools to take care of this. And there's definitely in Europe, there's no integrated tools like, the full stack of this. That's what SeedBlink is. And it's a step forward. It helps companies a lot. And I feel very fortunate to be part of SeedBlink and to get to change this world that is powered by VC. VC, it's an old investment model. It's doomed to be disruptive, and I think SeedBlink will be part of this disruption. So basically, SeedBlink, whatever stock exchanges are for mature companies is actually SeedBlink for tech startups. So solving the full stack. It's very rewarding, very nice.
How do you see SeedBlink evolve that in the future? I don't know, the next couple of years.
Yeah, it has to become the stock exchange like place for smaller for young tech companies in Europe.
Do you see yourself making an exit from SeedBlink?
Right.
Getting to that point where you no longer feel the thrill.
I see where you are coming from. I think SeedBlink is poised to become a big company. I think SeedBlink is not to be integrated in an acquirer. I think SeedBlink is to become the NASDAQ of Europe, if you want. And is this going to be with me or without me? Or with me as an advisor or as a chairman of the board or whatever, that's to be seen. I think that the most important part today is to create the great company that SeedBlink deserves to be. And then I'm sure that everybody's going to be happy. People around in the company, customers, investors, everybody's going to find a way. So if a company is a great company, everybody's going to find a way to do what they want to do, being it an exit or getting dividends or getting paid as a salary bonus, ESOP, whatever, on this level, right? So the most important thing is to create a great company, which means to create great products and serve greatly the customers. And that's not valid only for SeedBlink, it's valid for any startup. Start a startup, and it's valid for SeedBlink as well. You need to not start by thinking, where am I going to sell this company, 5 years from now? But the thinking is, how am I going to create a great product in a great company and make sure that the company has all the tools to grow, being it on both sides of the hourglass. So, which is the team, the management, the CEO, who's in the middle of everything, and then advisory board and shareholders, and making all the tools that gives the company, that gives the power of the top part of the hourglass from the shareholders, and all the knowledge of the shareholders and the ability from the top side to get into the team and actually become amazing and create a great product. Then everybody's going to get whatever they want.
Is this your advice also for founders, not to think about the end of the road? I mean, selling or, I don't know, getting money, but also focus on the execution, like you said before, and exactly on the road that lies ahead.
I'm going to start by saying that I would not venture to give advice. I think everybody has to create their own road, and that's how we all evolve. I can only share my experience, but if you decide to do somehow else, there is a fair chance that you're going to do things better than my advice, and that's the way we together evolve. So I wouldn't venture to give advice. Having said this, what I'm trying to do for myself regarding your question is, I think it's a combination. I think you have to kind of have a plan long term. And what they say is that it's always mandatory to have a plan, even if you change it every day, but you have to have a plan. So that's okay. You have to think of the future and to strategize for the future and take steps in a certain direction. But I do believe that the most important thing is to create a great company. And that's, as they are saying, sales cures everything, right? So at the end of the day, you have a great company, you're okay.
we're getting to the last part of our interview, and you mentioned the future. I'm going to get to that, but also I would like to start from the past and ask you how you see this evolution of the Romanian tech and startup ecosystem along these years. You've been involved also as a founder, also as an investor, so you have both sides of the table you're familiar with. How do you see it evolve? And what are our strengths and which are our weaknesses?
I'd rather take a day to put my thoughts in order, but I'm going to try to do it off the top of my head. So I think that Romania went from a very hardware stroke infrastructure. No, let me step even further back. Romania had an amazing good start from the previous era because it was supposed to be the tech country in the area. So on Ceausescu's times, Romania's technology, IT, was very well done. And if you end up speaking with some people that are experienced enough to have, been in that days, are going to tell you more than what I know. So that was a damn good start. Then there was a good period where Romania was very hardware and hardware infrastructure focused, buying parts from wherever and creating computers and selling computers because we needed to catch up with the others. Then some software knowledge started, and it was kind of cheap, and we got into a loan business based on software. So outsourcing companies, and Romania became a cheap nearshore solution, and outsourcing companies started to build and grow and got acquired by international outsourcing companies, and that was a solid part. Then what happened was that, and there are exceptions all over the place, but after this, these companies started to realize that they have software abilities, and product is not selling minutes, but selling product, and is much efficient. So some of the big outsourcing companies spinned off products like fintech OS, like Flowix, and so many others. Some entrepreneurs started day one by starting a product. And I think we are now in a very product-driven moment. And that's one line. Another line is given by companies growing big and trying and getting to have examples and to build communities. So I think that the three steps here are we selling the antivirus to Microsoft. That was kind of the first step, and this was in the tenth of millions. Then Bitdefender that grew a lot, and they got the investment from Vitruvian at some point in time that positioned them into the hundreds of millions. And then one step forward, UiPath, who's in the tenth of billions right now. Each of these companies created, steps and dynamics and ecosystem and money in the market, right? Because ESOP owners, employees, ESOP owners, started reinvesting in other businesses, and that's another timeline thing. And the third one that I want to touch on is how do I see what are the qualities of Romania. I think that Romania has very good programmers, but very few programmers. So I'd compare it more with Israeli than with India. I think that the code written by Romanians, it's way better than the Indian code. Indian is more spaghetti and black box that you don't really want to go and repair. Romania, it's very well done. It's in between bureaucratic and completely blown up in the air. So very good. A lot of shortcuts, good shortcuts, very good programmers, but very few programmers. I think that the step where we were an outsourcing country was very helpful. It brought money, it brought management knowledge, and so on. But now it penalizes us because it becomes very hard for companies to develop products because people are going in the outside. So I think we're now in a transition process from a very solid and powerful and big outsourcing moment into moving the resources into product. And I think it's a normal step, and it was very good that we've been through this outsourcing stage. We need to move as a country more and more into product.
How do you see it in the future?
What
do you think that would happen?
I think that more and more product-based companies are starting. I think that the UiPath mafia, how they call, the PayPal mafia, the Google mafia, people that worked in UiPath and got money through the IPO and everything are helping a lot. That's probably the most important thing that happened in Romania in the last 30 years, the UiPath thing. And a lot of companies are benefiting from their knowledge, from the experience, from the knowledge and experience of the environment before, from the money. It's going in the right direction. Very slow, but going in the right direction. And I'm not complaining it's slow. It's normal to be slow.
How would you pitch at this point in time the Romanian tech ecosystem, if you were to describe it, or to
whom?
To the outside world?
Any pitch, I'm gonna take a step back and avoid the answer here, because every pitch is different depending to whom you are pitching. And I would refuse to pitch anything in the air without knowing who the audience is, because any pitch is different depending of the audience, and is not different in the core thing. I mean, you're saying the same things, but in a different way. Having said this, I think that Romania created out of this part of the world. Romania created UiPath, which is the biggest decacorn, and there's so more to come. If you were an investor, I would say come here because you see, so many companies and everything. If you are a developer, I'd say come work for these companies because this. If you are an entrepreneur, I would say create a company because there are huge opportunities in Romania, and try to defend this position. If you're a kid, I would say, hey, try things. I mean, if you don't try and you don't fail, you don't know what you love, and you want to work something that's your actual hobby. And the right age to fail is very early. You cannot afford to fail when you are 50. You have kids, house, mortgage, this, that. You are 20, by all means, go fail. At amazing lessons when you fail. If you are, who do you want to be?
But can't you start over?
Yeah.
Relating to your last quote, you cannot afford to fail when you're 50. But what about starting over?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, but it's much, okay, let me rephrase it. It's much easier to fail when you are a kid than you are at 50. If you worked in a state-owned company until you are 50, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's much more painful to fail at that time.
What skills do you think that are important for a startup founder to have?
I think that the most important skill of a startup founder is to put together a team, to put together a good team. There are 3 or 5 or 7, depending on what book you are reading, type of knowledge that any company, as young as it may be, needs. And one is technology, another is commercial, another is financial, and so on, right? I think it's really impossible for one person to know it all. So then I guess the most important thing is to be able to build the right team. And instead of being a sole founder, know-it-all type of founder, to be able to build a 3-person founding team or a 4-person founding team, or whatever, one of them knowing something and being able as a team to perform. And I think that's the most important thing. That's actually one of the things that I love at SeedBlink. Being a 4 people, 4 founders company, it's absolutely amazing how powerful this is, and being different from each other and understanding different parts. I mean, having a banker, having a broker and an entrepreneur, having a strategist and having an execution mastermind. I mean, it's such a diversity and such a great and amazing opportunity to work and to be able to build something to change the world.
How did you manage, even from the beginning? You were fortunate to have with you the right people along the way. So it seems there are people that worked with you but in the beginning that are still your colleagues and your business partners. How did you manage from the beginning, like you said, to pick the right team, to bring the right people with you?
You know what? I have no
clue. In this journey.
I have no clue, right? I'd love to be able to sell you a great story, but I have no clue. It happened in an amazing way. A lot of luck, a lot of instinctual ability to kind of do the right things, I guess. But short answer is I don't know.
And my last question, what title would you give to a documentary about Romanian startups, the Romanian tech ecosystem?
I cannot think as fast. I think a documentary, it's an amazing idea. So, and what you are doing now, I think it's going to be a very core part of going forward and moving to the next steps. I think it's a very important thing to do. I think that the documentary in itself is going to be a lot of value. I think whatever you're going to follow from the documentary is going to be of a lot of value. I think that the name of the documentary is the one most important thing of everything. And I don't think it's choosing such an important name is something to answer in 2 minutes. I'll take my time. I'll come back though. I'll come back.
Thank you.